begin our beautiful practice today, friends. So I just want to just send out an extra warm welcome to everyone, especially people who are joining the Spokane Sangha for the first time. My name is Julia. I'm one of the facilitators in this wonderful, wonderful community. I have been a facilitator of Buddhist-inspired recovery going on 10 years now, and I'm a long-term Buddhist practitioner, and I'm very, very happy to be here. One of the things that we do in the Spokane Sangha that is unique, and it was inspired by the pandemic where we were all online and we were all unmoored and trying to figure it out and not freak out, is I really took a departure from the standard script because I wanted to take this opportunity to look at foundational and fundamental aspects of the Buddhist practice and take them for a deep dive. So what we do in the Spokane Sangha is we take a Buddhist concept and we study it for a month. And this month we have been exploring the Noble Eightfold Path. But we've only been exploring the first four elements of it. Traditionally, it's referred to as wise intention, wise understanding, wise action, and wise speech. Easier said than done. And one of the things that I do as a Buddhist practitioner is I try to take these ancient ideas, some of them with a lot of cultural and religious overtones, and even spiritual overtones, and I try to make them more relatable and applicable to my life. My life as a Western woman of privilege. I live on a farm. I have a family. My children are young adults, but when they were young, they were fully feral. So it was a good old wild time, and these practices were so very necessary. So I reimagine a lot of the traditional approaches, and my reimagined idea to these first four aspects of the Noble Eightfold Path is beginning with the word be, be, to be. So when we have wise intentions, I encourage people to be curious. Curiosity really opens up the doors to wonder what is motivating us. What's happening in our thoughts, in our stories, in our moods that motivates our acting out, our capacity to pause, and so forth. To have wise understanding is to be spacious. We need a lot of room to ventilate our thoughts. Let me put that in the first person. I need a lot of room to ventilate my thoughts. It is no accident that I live in the country. I have a great big wide open sky because when I am perseverating, when I'm stuck on a thought, when a craving arises, my mind instantly constricts and then I start looping. I start perseverating. So I need a lot of space in order to gain access to understanding. And understanding is a wise action that enables us to look at something from multiple points of view in order to fully get a full picture of it. But notice how much space is needed for my hand to move just to get an idea of what my finger is looking like. So the reimagined wise action is to be real. And this is something that I have struggled with because for many years I operated under this delusion that perfection was the name of the game. That I needed to somehow not be tripped up by all of my aversive ideation, all of my aggression and hostility, all of my confusion and unskillfulness. But when I started to become more real about what makes me a whole person. I am both skillful and unskillful. I both have a handle on what's right and what's wrong. I started to begin to come home to myself, but I was only able to do that by being real with myself. In the traditional view, it's said that the Buddha revered speech as a noble action, as a place to truly practice our understanding, our intentions and our actions through our speech. What we say, how we say it, when we say it, and how we listen. Sometimes how we hear what we want to hear, and how we close off to the things we don't want to hear. In the reimagined version of wise speech, I'm just going to encourage myself and by extension you to be patient. If you're anything like me, you operate with microwave mentality. You get a little nugget of wisdom and 30 seconds later, blip, 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 bing, ding, you're all good to go. And so we want to be good at this stuff right now. Alas, it takes a long time, so we have to cultivate patience. We've had the most wonderful exploration this week. We've talked about change and how difficult it is, and the various stages that we go through. We've talked about boundaries and how difficult those are. Today, I'd like to bring forward being boundaried with someone. And I'm going to use myself in my boundaried space and the Sangha, you. The third jewel in Buddhism. So for our meditation today and our reflection today, I'd like to bring forward the image of the Bala Cloghe. It means stone wall in Gaelic. And I'd like you to turn an inward gaze and find a comfortable posture for your body so you can imagine yourself in a space framed and bordered by a beautiful, well-masoned stone wall. And just take a moment to view one of your walls. What are the stones you've placed in there? Are they flat, flint-like stones, slate of some kind? Are they round and smooth? Are they porous, like pumice? Do you have little bits of quartz or semi-precious stones planted in your wall? How high is it? Depending on the person on the other side of that wall, it may vary. You might have somebody in your life. I have someone in my life where my boundary with them is ankle high. I merely step over it and I'm into their space and they into mine. Nevertheless, there is a boundary separating us, a neutral space. And this is a healthy way of relating to other people because it symbolizes and signifies I begin and end somewhere as a human being, and so do you. And the more I want to understand you, I first have to understand myself. And so even though I may be bordered with somebody with whom I have great ease, I'm in and out of their space, they're in and out of my space, we still trip from time to time. And so we have a border a boundary, a separation between us so we can pause. There are other people with whom I have a higher boundary, maybe waist high. I can still see them in their space, but it's harder to get over in there, and it's harder for them to come into my space. I can see people that I'm bordered with way in the distance. And these may be people that I don't know, but I hear about on the periphery. I had an experience in the Sangha where somebody brought to my attention a negative perspective that someone else had about me personally. So that person, I don't know who they are, I don't know their name, I don't know anything about them, and they're way over there. But this other person, this Sangha member with whom I'm boundaried, shared their perspective with me. And it wasn't charitable, it wasn't kind, and it certainly wasn't true. And wouldn't you know, I'm having a hell of a time letting it go. Would you look at that? So juicy and good. So the question is, have you ever heard somebody say something about you that you can't let go? Something derogatory, something shaming, something maybe a little true, maybe not, a little confusing. An aspect might be true. Here's how you work with it. And this is about putting these first 4 wisdom elements together. Wise intention, wise understanding, wise action, wise speech. Someone said something negative, and it activated my own internal narrative. Now that's something that someone said, I'm going to put it into a symbol that I can place on my balaklohe, my boundary. And the minute I put that perspective on my boundary so I can see it, it becomes, the boundary and the border now becomes an altar of understanding. The Sangha member did not throw this perspective into my space. They put it on the border and said, hey, did you know so-and-so said this about you? And I picked it up and I brought it into my space. I brought it into my heart and I brought it into my mind. And I rolled that thought in my hands and in between my fingers for days. I got a little stuck on it, and I had a whole bunch of emotion churning to the surface. Now, as a practitioner, I know that the emotions that get stirred are mine, and I do not have to blame the person who sent the perspective or the person who shared the perspective for my feelings. They're mine. I own them. And I also own the thoughts associated with them. So rather than blame the person that I'm bordered with or the other person way over there that I don't even know, I'm going to put the perspective down on the altar of understanding and continue to explore my own thoughts and feelings. I'm going to explore the speech that's arising in my own mind and heart. And I'm going to quit blaming anyone else. They're no longer in the picture. Now it's my work. Thich Nhat Hanh teaches us to work with various difficult emotions by simply saying hello to them. Hello, anger. I see you. Breathing in. Anger is present. Breathing out. Ease is also present. Breathing in, frustration and bewilderment are present. Breathing out, ease is also present. My intention of this practice is to not react in negative, habitual ways. My understanding of this situation is to create a space where I can see all the moving pieces with a great deal of clarity and to take my time. The wisest actions I can take is to be curious about everything that's happening within me. Wow, would you look at all of this? Look at all this stuff. Somebody spoke negatively about me, and I don't like it. What's that all about? Do I think I need to be everybody's cup of tea? Where is that written? Not everybody likes tea. Why can't I just accept that? Why can't I honor that and lay it to rest? Somebody was trying to be quite dismissive and diminishing of me. Why am I taking that on as a worthy endeavor to explore? I know who I am. And maybe this person has their own insecurities that they're projecting. But that's not my work. And I don't need to crawl over the boundaries to help them figure it out. I need to stay in my space and look at my own heart and mind. People I'm boundaried with may judge me for staying in my space. Unboundaried people hate boundaries. And they will constantly project blame. And none of that is my work. Julia, what's the matter with you? This person, this so-and-so said all this. Aren't you so upset? Aren't you going to say something? Aren't you going to do something? I did. I took that perspective and I put it on the boundary, on the altar of understanding so it could get some sunlight and fresh air. And I'm also going to take a look at all my feelings and thoughts associated with it. And that's a lot to do. Julia, aren't you going to get angry? Yeah. I sure am. Completely pissed off. I can't seem to let it go. And that's my work. I don't have to act it out in any way. Julia, isn't all this effort exhausting? No. Pretending I have it all figured out is, though. Pretending I'm not angry when I am is exhausting. Telling myself that I shouldn't be angry when I am is exhausting. But giving myself the freedom and the space to be exactly who I am, as I am, within my boundaried space is liberating. It's freedom. And that, my friends, is the anchor point of equanimity, one of the limitless qualities we can cultivate. It says, I'm a good person and I have non-virtuous qualities too. And that's my work to heal. I can be incredibly skillful and thoughtful and considerate, and I can be an asshole too, and make all kinds of mistakes. That's what makes me whole, and that's what makes me real. Friends, it is said that we are human beings having spiritual experiences, and we are also spiritual beings having these human experiences. And I think these spiritual practices are here not to become so spiritual that we're no longer human, but truly to become better humans and to understand the nature of our habit energy and to take responsibility and accountability for that habit energy, because we are the healers of our own minds and hearts. And we cannot do it if we don't have intentions, curiosity, if we don't have access to understanding and space, if we can't be real in our actions, and if we're impatient in our speech. It begins with me. It begins with you. And together we heal. I'll end with a breathing mantra that I shared with you yesterday. I really love this one by Thich Nhat Hanh. Breathing in. A flowering lotus for you. Breathing out peace. Breathing in a flowering lotus for me. Breathing out peace. Breathing in flowering lotuses for each of us, Buddhas to be. Thank you, friends. Okay, let's go ahead and end with the dedication of merit. And I'd like to enact something for you as a way of working with wise speech for oneself and with others. And it's inspired by something that Coco said, being on the slow bus. And we often have that feeling or that thought of, I need to be farther along. I need to be other than where I'm at. Because somebody said that to us. Somebody suggested that. So that gets planted in our consciousness as a seed. So here's that seed. And when somebody says things like, "Oh, I thought you'd be farther along," what we tend to do is grab hold that seed, swallow it, take it into our heart. And really what we can do with that is go, look at that. Look at that. You thought I was going to be farther along. I wonder why you thought that. This is yours. Ain't mine. We're going to put that down on the balaklohe. So see how I did that? And our habit energy is to go, really? Oh, right. I should be farther along. I should be other than who I am. How I am is wrong and bad. And really it's like, why'd you think that? I think this is yours. We'll just put it on the balaklohe for a bit. So that's how we work that. That's how we do that. But we can't do it if we're intoxicated. Mind doesn't work sharply like that. The mind isn't bright when we're intoxicated. The mind has a tendency to go back to our habits when it's muddled. So that's kind of one of the hard things. We can't do it without patience or practice, and we can't do it without each other, practicing with wise friends. So please know that the merit that you've received from this practice is spreading far and wide. And it's modeled through your practice. When you say to someone, "Oh, why did you think that?" You've just modeled how to be curious. And you've just flipped some switch that says, that challenges the notion that to be curious is dangerous. It is. To be curious is transformative, and to some people that's dangerous because they'd much rather keep things the same, even if it's bad, even if it causes misery. But we are here practicing to alleviate the misery of the world. And it begins right here, you and me. Thanks, friends. Namaste.